The Stories That Shaped Us is a limited series podcast by the National School Public Relations Association. Produced in celebration of NSPRA's 90th anniversary, these voices, these stories seek to honor the legacy of NSPRA and explore the evolving role of school communicators and the future of the profession.
No one does the work of school PR alone. NSPRA's 90-year history is rooted in many things, but perhaps nothing is more meaningful than the power of building connections. Through leaders, mentors, and change makers in school communications, NSPRA's path has been shaped by the shared value that all of us in this work are better together. This is the Stories That Shaped Us podcast. Hello, my name is Mitchell Rausch, and I am fortunate to serve as the Communications Director for Grand Island Public Schools in Nebraska. Now, I've been tapped by NSPRA as a fellow school PR pro to journey through this podcast adventure alongside influential voices in the industry and alongside you, our listeners. So in this episode, we're diving deep into the meaning behind the work and the people who not only make it happen, but the people who are built up by others and those who pay it forward. Because it is in this collaborative effort in sharing our expertise, in learning from each other, and in forging connections in the field of school communications that we recognize that we don't have to go it alone, and that our collective work is better when we lean into each other. So we'll hear from Danielle Clark, APR, and Dirk Tedman, APR. And both of them are passionate believers in the work of school PR, and both were recently recognized by NSPRA for their efforts in connecting with others and building them up. And as they share, you'll hear how NSPRA has played a pivotal role in building connections for school PR professionals across the country, across generations, and the positive ripple effects felt throughout the profession and felt throughout our public schools. This is the Stories That Shaped Us podcast, Episode 3, The People Behind the Podium.
My name is Danielle Clark, and I am the Chief Communications Officer for the Harris County Department of Education. We are an educational service provider in Houston, Texas, and I have been in school PR for 26 years. I've been in 4 states. I started in California, moved to Tennessee, went to Colorado, and now I'm in Texas.
Danielle Clark, APR, is a fierce advocate. She advocates for public schools, she advocates for her profession, and she advocates for others. Now, anyone that's spent more than 5 minutes with Danielle knows this. But that's not all. Her 26-year career in school PR has taken her to 4 different states and found her leading SPRA chapters, and most recently was recognized as the Barry Gaskins Mentor Legacy Award winner by NSPRA. That's an honor given to a veteran in the field of school communications who has made an immeasurable impact through the power of mentoring others. Now, she's seen a lot in her career. And through it all, Danielle still carries that deep appreciation for her profession. As she calls it, school communications is a labor of love. Here's her story. You've been a lot of places and you have seen a lot.
Yeah, I like to say I'm battle scarred.
That's a good way to put it. Battle scarred, but you're still smiling when you say it, which means you're not completely jaded.
No, not at all. I mean, you have to love this job to do it. I tell people this is a labor of love. If you don't love this job, you need to go find a different one because it's really hard. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a ton of sacrifice from you and your family. And you better enjoy it because you're going to put a lot of yourself into it. And if you enjoy it, then it's not really a job. It's a labor of love. It's a passion. And then the bad stuff doesn't seem so bad.
And I'm sure you understand nobody does the work of school PR alone. And I know that matters to you a lot. So would you be willing to share with me and our listeners what, over the course of your career, what has been the impact of NSPRA in your school PR journey?
Well, I've been a member of NSPRA for 25 of the 26 years. The power of NSPRA is in the people. It's who you meet, the networking, and those connections you make. And what I tell people when they go to NSPRA every year is get away from your team, talk to somebody new, find a veteran, find someone who's been doing it, stalk them, as I like to say, get their phone number, get their email, go to their sessions, call them, talk to them, because that's where you really learn. I mean, yes, you learn in the sessions and you get the tactics and you get how to make a better video or do a social post or how do I handle this situation. But if you're really having a situation in your district and you don't know how to handle it, chances are somebody in Ensborough has already done it and maybe done it multiple
Absolutely.
times. And so all you need to do is find that person, and it's easier than it sounds. I know people think, oh, there's 1,500 people here. How am I supposed to find someone that's going to tell me how to handle this situation? Well, that's why I say go to people's sessions and go talk to people and get introduced, because someone will know someone who will know someone who has had that, and they're happy to introduce you. Yes, there are probably 2,500 people in Ensborough, but it is actually a very small community. Most
Hmm.
everybody knows everybody, especially if you've been doing it a while. It's the same faces that tend to circulate. And so you know that X, Y, and Z person is the best person to talk about crisis comms, or this person is the best person to talk about leadership, or whatever it may be. So I just say the best thing about Ensborough is the people you meet, the networking, the opportunity to make friends, to have colleagues, and to find people who you can lean on when you need to.
I really like the way you said, chances are somebody in Enspro's already done it. Like
Yes.
whatever you're cooking up or whatever issue you're facing,
Mhm.
that could not be a more apt nugget than chances are somebody at Inspira has already done it. And I certainly would echo your experience. I haven't been doing this as long as you, but my experience as well, both in my state chapter and
Mhm.
in the national chapter, is if
Mhm.
I need to reach out to somebody that's a subject matter expert on something that I'm considering or I'm grappling with, it
Mhm.
has been amazingly easy
Yeah.
for me to reach out and find somebody that's willing to share time and share expertise.
And that's the beauty of school PR, I think, because if you talk to people in other industries, like I talk to my husband about this all the time. He's former Navy, he did corporate and defense contracting. He can't understand this mindset at all. But he's like, you're giving away your knowledge for free. Why, people charge for this. And I said, but why would I charge? This is to better my profession. This is what school PR people do.
Hmm.
They are so happy to just pass along the knowledge, pass along the wisdom, pass along the support. And I think that's what makes it special, is that in no other industry that I've seen, even in PRSA here in Houston, it's actually very competitive and people are always
Mm.
competing. It's always that competitive edge. In school PR in Ensborough and even your state chapter, you'll never find that. Even if two people are going out for the same job, they're doing it with a loving heart and spirit, right? And they're rooting
Yes.
for each other because they know that the best person's going to get the job and they want the best person to get the job. And so sometimes it's that's a better job for you than it was for me. And so it's that loving, kind, helpful spirit that is so beautiful about Ensborough, and other industries cannot understand it. And I think that it's a wonderful thing, and it is very easy. You go in the directory. I can't tell you how many times I've looked up someone in the directory, emailed them cold. Hi, my name
Yep.
is Danielle Clark. I'm from Harris County. Da, 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 da. You're in a BOCES in New York, and I see that you have similar things than me. Would you be willing to talk? I mean, there are people that I have met virtually that it was like a big deal to meet them in person at Ensborough. There was someone I
Hmm.
did in 2021 in New Orleans. I did a presentation with someone who I'd never met till I got there. She was from
That's
Iowa
awesome.
and I was from here. And I was like, hey, let's do a presentation together. And we did. And I didn't meet her till the morning we did the presentation.
And I'm sure it was fabulous. I like to joke that I'm the only school PR person that didn't start in journalism. I came from the corporate marketing background.
Okay. No, there's
And
others.
like,
Yeah.
there's a few of us, but like what you're describing is it was like the best kind of culture shock when I joined the school
Yes.
PR arena, right? I was not at all prepared for the amount of enthusiastic and helpful collaboration across this industry. But goodness gracious, is it amazing? And does it make us all better?
It's very unique. I think it's unique a little bit to education. Education, I
Hmm.
think, has that loving, we work with children, it's that loving, kind spirit.
Yeah.
But in school PR, it is just so collaborative and people are willing to help you and lift you up. There is no tearing down in Ensborough. Everybody wants everyone to succeed.
And because we're all doing this work together, especially in
Mhm.
the arena of public education. I was actually on the phone this week with a superintendent at a small school district who's getting ready to hire their first ever comms person.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is so exciting. And
Yeah, it is. Good.
this soup who I'm kind of connected to called me and
Hmm.
basically was like, how do I set this person up to be successful?
Right.
And I told them two things. I said, they need to sit down with you and figure out what your district's strategic goals are and build relationships with all your leadership. But
Yes.
then the number two thing was, I said, you need to get them to join their state SPRA chapter and the national chapter. And I promise you, whatever specific areas you all need to be focusing on, they will be able to get connected to somebody that is an expert in that piece that
Hmm.
will be willing to help them get acclimated.
I mean, superintendents are a rather isolated group, as I like to say. They're kind of lonesome, they're kind of loners. They hang by themselves, and there's a ton of competition amongst them. Let me tell you, that's a ton of competition. Not that loving, familial is what I say. We have a very
Hmm.
familial, very family oriented. We are like a family, and I think it's awesome that they are doing that and that you suggested that because. When I first came in 1999, seems like forever ago. The first thing I was told by my friend who was in at the county and I was at a district, he said, "You need to join CalSPRA." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Here you go."
Is
And
that
so
a
then
word? Like,
yeah,
what
I was
is
like,
that?
"What is that?" And so then, I joined it and I ended up meeting the person who mentored me. And then I ended up becoming president-elect like 7 years later. Once you're in, you get sucked in and it's contagious. I would say the
Hmm.
enthusiasm and the knowledge is contagious, and you just want more and more and more because this is a unique profession. There is
Yeah.
no book. I mean, yes, there is a book for APR, but there is no book that tells you how to do school PR. It just doesn't exist. There's only people who know. And that's the wonderful part about it is that, like I said, there's somebody out there who's had this happen to them, guaranteed had this happen. I mean, when you have war stories, people are like, oh, you won't believe this happened and this happened and this happened. And it's fun to exchange them. But all you have to do usually is change the geography and maybe the person involved. But the situation itself is usually replicated, right?
Yes.
So you just go through and you can say to them and you can learn so much just from that conversation. And you just want to keep going because we are the best professional development for each other. That's what I think.
And I think that's a great way and a healthy way to frame that. You talked earlier about it being familial, but also
Mhm.
that concept of it's PD as well.
It's like ongoing PD, right? So I have a friend of mine, Christy McGee in Colorado, and I haven't been in Colorado for 7 years, but
Hmm.
she and I text all the time. She'll be like, "Hey, do you have a letter about blah, 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 blah?" And I'm like, "Let me check, whatever." And I'm like, "No, I trashed them all. I didn't bring them, but this is what I would say or whatever." And and then I'll go back to her and I'll be like, "Oh, I need to like vent for 5 seconds about blah, 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 whatever it is." And she'll be like, "That's okay. Deep breath, I hear you, whatever." And so it's PD. It's someone there who can help you move through the situation, but also help you learn because as you're talking to them, you're learning how to write that letter. You're learning how to manage that situation. You're learning how to deal with someone that's irritating you, and it's like, yeah, I know. I just needed the reminder, to just, take a deep breath and move on. And so everybody needs that, even when you've been doing this for 35, 40 years, which we have members who have. And, they're still learning and having that growth mindset, being always willing to learn and grow and expand your horizons. That is so necessary in today's day and age because as I like to say, the landscape of public education is evolving at a rapid pace. It is not at all what it was when I started 26 years ago, and it isn't even what it was 10 years ago. It's completely different. And the work of school PR is completely different. And so we have to be nimble and adapt and be flexible. And that requires on the job training.
Hmm.
Literally, we are learning to manage these situations as we go through them. And then if we share, then as other people go through them, they get better and better. And then together we can change the narrative.
Yes to all of that. I mean that speaks so much to the heart of what we do and how we can make each other better and continue to stay active in doing this meaningful work. You did recently receive the Gaskins Award at an
I did.
National, which is wonderful. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Um, but that's also indicative of what you believe in
Mhm.
terms of the power of mentoring and cross collaboration. So in continuing kind of what you've teed up here, just
Mhm.
why is that so important?
If we don't mentor those coming in, if we don't take the time to invest in the new generation, the younger folks coming in, just like someone did for me, right? And someone's doing for you and did for all of us. If we don't do that, this job is hard. And I've seen more people get out in the last 7 years than I have in the whole 19 prior combined. I mean,
Yeah.
there is an exodus out of the profession because it is hard. And yet there's a bunch of people that want to come in, which is wonderful, but we have to nurture that and we have to foster
Hmm.
that and we have to help them be successful. Because if we don't, at the rate we're going and at the rate public education is under attack, there will be nobody sitting in that room in 10 years. It will be, people will be gone. Nobody will want to do this job. It will be so hard, so taxing, and so awful. Nobody's going to want to do it. So we have to help each other. We have to support each other. We have to keep it going. We have to keep our profession moving forward. Somebody had to do that for us. Somebody did it for me. Poured into me and helped me become who I am today. And that, along with all my experiences, have created a professional who has 26 years of wisdom under her belt. Well, why would I not want to pay that forward? Why would I not want to turn around and help someone because someone helped me? Because I would not be sitting here if it was not for them and all the people throughout the years that I have called upon, that I've texted, that I've been in all my spread chapters with, that I'm still friends with. If not for them, I would not be here today. I probably would have quit. In fact, I almost did quit when I was in
Wow.
Tennessee. And I turned in my resignation. This is a story a lot of people don't know. I turned in my resignation. It was a very ugly situation in Tennessee. There was a board member that was just personally attacking my family, and I finally just said, "I'm done with this." And so I turned in my resignation, and I called my friends in. At that point, I called my friends up in Nashville. One of my friends, Carol Birdsong, and I talked to her, and she's like, "Okay, I get it. You know, it's tough and whatever, and I support you." And she said, "But you know, who's going to do it if you don't?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, I'm still going to quit." So then I went home and I ended up rescinding my resignation. My husband ended up getting laid off. So I ended up rescinding my resignation, which was the best thing. And then 4 weeks later, my superintendent came to me and he said, "I'm getting bought out." And I said, "Well, I don't want to stay and work for the guy coming in." And I did not agree with his ethics. He had none. And I didn't agree with him. And so that's when I went online to NSPRA, and there were two jobs in the country. There was one in Fort Collins and one in Austin, Texas. I said to my husband, "Want to go to Texas? You want to go to Colorado?" He said, "Apply for both." I said, "Okay," I did. And I got the Fort Collins job. And that's how I got to Colorado. But I say that to tell folks that we've all been there. Everybody in
Yeah.
this profession has been at the point where they're like, "I don't want to do this anymore. This is too
Hmm.
hard," for whatever reason, right? You get personally attacked. Your health has been taking a hit. I was clinically burnt. I had clinical burnout almost twice, almost hospitalized twice. And so I understand all of that. And yet there is some spirit of love for the profession, for the goal, for the children we serve, for the country, that I believe that public education is the backbone of it. And for that and for the future, then we keep going. And so part of my desire to keep going and to keep it going is to help the next generation come up, because I truly believe in my heart of hearts that if I don't do that and you don't do that and my friends don't do that, that our profession will go away, because we will be under attack, and then it'll be a budget cut, and then eventually public ed will just become this thing that people don't want to be a part of. And that would break my heart.
We can't let that happen. And sometimes the stakes feel unfairly huge, but
Yes, they do.
um, we're we're here because we want to take care of children,
Yes, at the
and
end of the day, that's what you want to do.
that's what we want to do. And that work is admirable, but it is hard. And as you said, it's a labor of love,
It is.
and love is work.
It is. It is not easy. It is not easy. But at the end of the day, when you come through that storm or that crisis or whatever it is, a speed bump, whatever it is that you're dealing with, and you come through it and you look back, you will realize that a couple things have happened. One, you are stronger for it.
Mhm.
Two, you are better equipped to handle the next one coming through. And three, you know where your support system lies. right? Whether that's with your family, your friends, your colleagues, other people in the district, and this conglomerate of people that stand behind you as you do your job. But I believe it's worth it. I believe that my children are a product of public ed. I'm a product of public ed. My husband's a product of public education, and I believe in it. And I believe in what we do. I believe in why we do it. I believe in how it supports our country and our communities. And I believe that without public education, the future of this country would be in jeopardy. I truly believe that.
Hear, hear. Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter if one person has 1 year and one person has 40, or you both have 10, or whatever the number of years you have and experience you have. The point of mentoring is to learn from each other and to pass it on and to help each other. And if we continue to do that, then public ed will get better, our profession will continue to grow and thrive, and then NSPRA will be here for many, many, many years to come.
That is a good word. Danielle, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your voice. But more importantly, thank you for everything that you've done and continue to do to make school PR the labor of love that it is.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, and it was a true honor.
Hi, I'm Dirk Tedman. I'm the Executive Director of Marketing and Communications for Eden Prairie Schools in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. We're a district of just over 9,000 students in the southwest metro of Minneapolis. And I'm starting my 4th year in the district. Prior to that, I was at the College of Education and Human Development at the University of Minnesota for a year, and with Minneapolis schools before that. And prior to getting into school PR, I had a life in government communications, and I am starting my 11th year in the school public relations field.
Dirk Tedman, APR, is a leader driven by deep empathy. Empathy for others, empathy for his work, and he believes in the power of being better together. With a career in school PR for over 11 years, Dirk has become a reliable collaborator and hype guy of sorts for school comms folks across the country. And all of it is rooted in his deep belief that we are all advancing the cause of education together. Not only that, last year, Dirk made NSPRA history as he was honored as the association's first ever School Communicator of the Year award. But as you'll find out, as I did, if you ask him about it, he'll just spend his time talking about everyone else who is on the stage next to him. And he'll continue building up the folks he works with and the great people he's connected with through NSPRA. Why? Because he believes that we can all learn from each other. Here's his story. You had the honor recently of being the first School Communicator of the Year award winner by NSPRA, which is a really big deal. So talk to me about that for a little bit. What was that experience like? What does that award mean to you? What's your work been like since then?
What was incredible was to be on that stage with so many amazing school communicators from across the country. And it was funny because my team is really supportive. I have a great group here. As we're talking, not doing alone, like my Eden Prairie Schools marketing and communications team is fantastic. But they were like, when I got named at all, they were like, yeah, that's really awesome. But, I wouldn't plan on anything nationally. We looked at some of those bios, and those people are really, really good. And so I think we were all a little shocked when I was named. But I think that what has been so impactful to me about this journey is getting to travel the country and see so many people doing so much work with so much care for their communities. I always know that that's happening, and we get to see each other at NSPRA events and at the conference, and it's always amazing to touch base with people. But I got to see more directly what people are doing in their districts and hear firsthand the stories of how they are having a direct impact on students and families and staff and the communities that they serve, and hearing about challenging situations, joyful situations, situations that make you kind of go, huh? And just really getting to understand that the people who work in this field are some of the most caring and committed people, but also some of the most competent people I've ever met in any career field, which you
For
have to
real.
be because what we do is work that nobody else can really imagine. The ability to travel around, to hear other people's stories, to be able to share a little bit of my story was just meaningful in a way I hadn't really planned on and has even further shaped how I do my work as a communications professional.
This work isn't boring, but man, I when I joined this industry, I was incredibly impressed and blown away by just the fleet of doers that we are in the school PR arena. Like everyone just gets it done, and we've all seen random stuff, but we get it done at the end of the day because we believe in what we do and the mission of what our schools are accomplishing. Would you be willing to share with me just a little bit what is the impact Inspira has made in you and your school PR journey and finding your footing in this arena?
When I got connected with the National Association, I was blown away just by how much support there is, the number of resources that they can offer to communicators, the feeling of community that they work to foster so that as we're doing this work, as you talked about, all of us being doers, that we don't have to do it alone.
Hmm.
I was really privileged to be part of the Minnesota School Public Relations Association, which is a really great network of people, and your state association is such an invaluable resource to understand your local context and have people who you can call when you're going through something or bounce an idea off of as it relates to what you're going through in your area. But having a whole nother group of people across the country to be able to get insights into the work that's happening, the struggles that they're facing, whether the challenge that you're seeing in your community is shared not only in your area but nationwide, is just a whole different opportunity and such an amazing thing for all of us who are trying to do this work every day and not reinvent the wheel and wear 1,000 hats and be the doers. To know that there is basically an army behind you is empowering and uplifting and pretty incredible as we think about the resources that can help us be our most effective. When I think about what NSPRA does for not only school communicators, but helping to elevate our profession, I feel a lot of gratitude and appreciation. So often we're overlooked or underappreciated in our
Yeah.
roles and the work that we do. And they've been so intentional about trying to elevate that and trying to make sure that we have seats at the leadership table of
Hmm.
working with the Superintendents Association and other organizations to elevate the role of school PR professionals. And I think that that impact of that work can't be understated as well.
That is such a meaningful piece. I really like the way you frame that, elevating the profession. I think that's exactly core to what they're doing. It's certainly been my experience in connection to the organization. And it's not a power grab. It's that our job is easier if we have a seat at the table. We're able to help shape strategically the positive impact that our districts are making if we have a seat at the table. And I think NSPRA does a good job of supporting us as we pursue that positioning so that we can better take care of the people we're serving.
I agree 1,000%. We've all been in that situation where it's like, oh, if you'd just come to me at the beginning of this, we could have saved everyone a lot of heartache. And NSPR is
Exactly.
helping do that for the field of communications as a whole. And I think that that's a really powerful thing. And, they just have the best people out there who care
Yes.
so deeply about this work. They don't care about running an association. They care about advancing the cause of education, about supporting the profession of communications, about showing up in a way that can truly make our communities and our country a better place. And I think that having that mission-driven mindset behind the work is what sets NSPRA apart and the way that it helps us as school communicators.
Why is the mentoring experience or the cross collaboration experience so important to the work that you're doing?
Everybody is so willing and ready and truly giving when it comes to their work and trying to help other people be successful. It's something you really don't expect that when you say, "Oh, I'm going through this thing," and somebody says, "I've been through that and I can help you." And we talk about admiring and acquiring each other's work. That is one of the amazing things of this profession, but it also is what makes the work that we do matter even more because we know that it could be supporting somebody else. We know that we're doing it as part of a community. We know that we're all grounded in the same root value system that is underpinning our work. And I think that as we talk about mentoring and collaboration, the idea I like to come back to is steel sharpens steel. Like we all know something that can help somebody else and continue to grow this profession and adapt to new technologies and new approaches to communication and engagement, or be able to articulate something in a new way through a perspective we hadn't considered before. And I just
Hmm.
love being able to sit and have a conversation with somebody from a district that's similar to mine or different than mine, with a person who's similar to me in background and experience or race or ethnicity or any number of those pieces of our identity, and to get a new perspective that helps inform the work that I do, because the communities that we serve deserve that. The communities that we serve
Yes.
need that. They come from so many backgrounds and identities and belief systems, and they've had so many different experiences that if we don't work in collaboration, there's no way that we can truly get to serving each student that we have in our district, to meeting the needs of each family member that we have, to making each person in our community feel the value of our schools. And I think that is the power that you see through the collaboration in this profession and through having mentorship or being a mentor to somebody else, and just having this idea that we are better together than we are alone, and that the sum is greater than its parts.
When other public school districts have a stronger footing and are more confidently communicating and taking care of their communities, then like everyone's better. And I think that's probably my favorite thing about this type of work. One of the most valuable resources that I have in doing my work every day is the group text thread that I have with a few of my closest colleagues across our state that I connected to with our state chapter. And we'll hit up that text thread when we need something or we need to bounce some ideas off of people. And I just think that not only is that making me better, but it's making our state better because we're all trying to do what's right by our public schools. And that makes a difference. What is one thing that sticks out to you as you work with your team at your district or your colleagues across Minnesota, or you connect with different SPRAs across the country? What's something that stuck out to you maybe in the last couple of years has been a great example of cross collaboration that's made a difference for you?
The one that comes immediately to mind to me is something that I heard out of Illinois, and it was a district that was doing work with its local police department and fire department, trying to increase engagement and trust with families and their emergency preparedness work. And they did something that seems so simple, but has been so impactful. And it just always comes to mind for me is on Fridays, they do High Five Fridays, where police officers and firefighters just show up at the parent drop off, giving kids high fives, and the district takes pictures and they share it on social media. And when they talk about this, like it makes for great photos and everybody's happy, but the relational component that's underpinning that, you just don't even realize the impact that something like that has. If I have had a traumatic experience or maybe a bad experience with law enforcement or members of some legal community, like that can be a very challenging thing, and yet we're breaking down those barriers and introducing people in new ways. Or if I have concerns about school safety and what's going on for my child, knowing that there is this strong partnership and collaboration because I've seen it firsthand and I see them outside my child's school, there's so much power and depth to that. It seems like such a small thing. We're inviting people to give high fives and we're taking photos, but the impact of that is so deep. And it recently came to mind for me. We had that school shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church and School here in the Twin Cities just a couple weeks ago. It was tragic and scary and so sad. And we, as a local community of school PR professionals, were talking about how we handle this and what we do. And then at a very local level in our cabinet, we were talking about what do we need to do to make families feel safe and comforted at our back to school events and our open houses. And that example and idea came up again of how could we have our police and firefighters engage in a way that doesn't feel like they're showing up just because there was a shooting, or that because we have some fear right now, but that this is truly grounded in relationship and trust and building a community together. And so that's a small example, but one that I think just shows the depth and the power and the intent behind the work that we do. Because as a family member scrolling through Instagram, seeing that smiling photo, you probably don't realize that there was so much work that went behind that, not just to make it
That's right.
happen, but to the why behind why it was happening.
Hmm.
And there are examples like that that I've heard across the state, across the country, that just really show how much of an impact we can make for the communities we serve.
The little things, especially when done consistently and done well, makes such a big difference. And the things that make big impacts like that are made up of all those little things. Like those high five Fridays with service officers or firefighters is another component of the safety intentionality that that district is doing. And all of those little things contribute to building trust, like you said, and making a positive impact. I think that's an incredible example because it's also, to me, a welcome reminder that, like, do those little things really well because that matters just as much as the big thing of do we have a safety page on our website?
I believe it's Glenview, Illinois, just to give them the shout out.
Shout out
And
Glenview.
yeah, they, we have to keep our mind both on the big things, those really strategic initiatives or big events, whatever, but also those really small tactical details and how they come together as part of a larger whole. And that's when we can be our most effective.
When you think about all the great people that you've been connected to through your state chapter and through NSPRA, Dirk, who's one person that has changed the game for you that you've been connected to?
Oh my gosh, it's hard to narrow it down to one person because there's so many. And I am a continuous learner and I will beg, borrow, and steal from anybody who's willing to spare a moment with me. But I have to say, in particular, that one of the amazing outcomes of this School Communicator of the Year experience was getting to meet and know three other finalists. Jared Revlett from Kentucky, Danielle Airy from Arizona, and Kelly Wachel are incoming NSPRA president from
Hmm.
Missouri. And the three of them are incredible storytellers, strategic thinkers, crisis gurus, and compassionate mentors. They're truly the best of the best in school public relations, and I feel honored to have made a connection with them and to continue to maintain that connection. And I especially have to call out Danielle as one of the people who is changing the game for me. She was one of the people when my team was like, there's no way you're going to get this. That they were like, if you looked at that Danielle in Arizona, she's amazing. Like, there's no way you can compete with that. And it's true, she is amazing. And what it has pushed me to do is to compete a little bit more because she is doing such strategic work. She's won gold medallions year after year because she puts so much intentionality behind the work that she does, and it has real impacts. You see their kindergarten numbers for enrollment increasing. You see hiring initiatives that are bringing in more staff to their district to better serve their students. And I think having somebody, again, that steel sharpens steel, who pushes
Hmm.
me to be a better version of myself, but does it with care and compassion and kindness, and who is truly just a genuinely great human being, has been a real blessing to me. And I try to make sure that all of the finalists know how much I appreciate them, but especially Danielle over the last year, and the way she's shown up for me and been a thought partner. And we've done some work together on like accreditation and public relation panels and things, has really helped me have another lens into the work that I'm doing, as well as brought some innovative ideas about how we can push ourselves forward. Plus, they have really great pens out in Peoria that we need to figure out how to steal because my team does not
Gotta
like
have a
ours
strong
anymore.
pen game.
Yes. And I would just say be willing to take that risk because you will make a connection that you could have never imagined and grow in ways that are going to change you forever because those are the type of people who are showing up to do this work. You're not
Yeah.
going to generally meet somebody at your state SPRA chapter or at NSPRA who's doing this job to get a paycheck, who's showing up just because they want to have a job in PR, you're going to meet somebody who is really values and mission driven, somebody who is going to push you to be a better version of yourself, somebody who's going to call you when they see something in the news in your district and say, "Are you doing okay? What can I do for you?" And it takes a little bit of courage on your side and a little bit of grace as well to extend that offer to somebody else, even when you might not feel comfortable. And I think the more that we can do that as communicators, the more that we can create this community and camaraderie and collegiality among each other, the better we're going to be in the work that we do. And we talked about why that is, because we are better together and stronger when we show up and do this work in a way that supports each other and makes us our better versions of ourselves and our district the best versions of themselves. And your story is your superpower, and that we have to know ourselves and know our own stories in order to better be able to tell the stories of our district and impact our community. But part of that, and just as important to that, is knowing the stories of others and being able to hear those stories and reflect those stories and learn from those stories, because I only have the perspective that I have based on my life and my worldview and the things that I've been through. I can't fully appreciate somebody else's story and what they've been through and the impact that their experience have had on them until I take a minute to listen and to learn and to sit in reflection. And I think if you can find somebody who can be that for you, if you can lean into this network that we have, you're going to be better able to serve the students and community that you live in, work in, and that's going to have untold impact for an unknown number of people, because you never know the message that you send, how it's going to impact somebody. You never know the connection they're going to make with a post you put on social media that you don't even think is anything. You don't know how your story is going to be a part of their story and shape who they become in the future as well. And I think that is the awesome power of this profession. And it's also the gravity of the work that we're doing and why it matters so much. The more you can do that in partnership with somebody, the more you have somebody standing beside you or behind you or leading the way in front of you to create a path, the more you can do to make this impact, which is why you got into this work to start with.
We hold each other up, we sharpen each other, and we remain committed to really meaningful work that is making a positive impact. Dirk, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you being generous with your time and your voice to share with this podcast project. This was a gift. Thank you. Everyone wins when we do the work of public education together. And in the arena of school communications, no one does this work alone, and we're all the better for it. Throughout the decades, NSPRA has been shaped by the people behind the podium, by the pros who see others, by those who share their stories and what they've been through, by the strong connections that have been made across the states, across the country, and across generations. Support is found in sharing ourselves and sharing our work, and that we make each other and our schools better. So we salute NSPRA for not just being a leader in school communications, but in being a leader in fostering connections and support, and for always remembering that it's the people behind the podium that move us forward in our shared purpose. And next week, we'll explore the tools of the trade, from mimeographs to early internet days to social media, and how NSPRA helped members adapt to a constantly changing communication landscape.
The Stories That Shaped Us is a limited series podcast by the National School Public Relations Association, produced in celebration of NSPRA's 90th anniversary. Special thanks goes out to host and producer Mitchell Rausch, executive producer Sarah Laughlin, NSPRA Executive Director Barbara Hunter, APR, and you, our 2,900 plus NSPRA members. Be sure to visit NSPRA.org for membership information, professional development resources, and more. Thank you for listening to The Stories That Shaped Us.